Welcome to your crafty place. Today we are going to be working on day 2 of the Craftoween Spellbinders mystery box. It's a crow and a skull, and I went ahead and die cut all the pieces out just because there were so many of them, and I just used some scraps that I had in my stash, so some blacks, purples, there's some gray, yellow, and then white. And now I'm using my reverse tweezers to kind of hold the smaller pieces down while I distress ink them with the Vintage Photo Distress Ink from Tim Holtz. And I do that with some of the white pieces. I do it with the purple hats, one of the purple bows. I've got more pieces than what I'm actually going to be using here, but I wanted to make sure I had enough if I wanted to mix and match. So we're going to be making 2 crows and 3 skulls total. So I did do one of the skulls a little bit different. You'll see here in a minute. I'm just gluing the white onto the black so that the eyes show through. I did distress ink the edges of the white one as well. And I just use a stamp block there, an acrylic stamp block, just to hold them down so that the glue has time to dry. And now I'm going to use a black skull on a white piece so that there's white eyes. I will come back later and distress ink the white because they're too stark white for me, but I just thought that was different. I did glue it on the opposite way so that the skull is looking the other way as well, just to give it a little bit different look, and you'll see that in the card later. I'm going to use a white acrylic pen here to color the black on the bird on this one. It doesn't make that big of a difference, but you can sort of tell through the little etched marks that are on the wing. You can kind of see it as the glue dries. When the glue's there at first, you really can't tell whether it's the white glue or whether it's the white in the background. But as the glue dries clear, you can see the white. On the next one, I'm actually going to do the same thing. I go back and forth as to whether I should, but only I'm going to do it on the wing just so that I can see if I could see the white more on one than the other. Really can't at first. It's really hard to tell. Once it dries, you can definitely see it more on the one that I put the white on the back of the wing because I was able to get into the crevices a little bit. So if you want white, you could also just glue some white paper to the back of it. That would be up to you. Or if you used a white core paper, when you cut it, the score marks would probably have white in it, but you really don't need it. It's so minimal that you don't really need it. I use just a yellow to do the bird's little legs, and they are connected together, which is great. And then you just use that part to put them on the back. Some of the paper that I have is a slicker paper, so the glue takes a little bit longer to adhere to it. So that's why some of the pieces come up whenever I glue them down. Like the purple is a slick, the black is a slick. I'm just trying to use up some of the scraps that I have. The slick paper was some of the 12 by 12 from Michaels. It has a little tiny bit of a texture to it, but it's still really slick. It's fine. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it works, and I've used it for decorative items, not so much cards, but like if I was cutting out a nativity scene or something like that, I would use some of those pieces, and they gave it a little bit more texture and shine because there's, like I said, a little bit of texture to it. I decided one of the beaks need to be distressed a little bit. I used a gray color for both of the beaks. In the picture, I think the beak was all black. I decided to be just a little bit different just to see. And you can line up the beak with the point kind of up there at the top, and then there's a point on the beak that you line it up on the bottom. I used it so that it covered the eye portion so that my eye was the same color as the beak. You can kind of see that there. The beak also has a little bit of etching in it so that you can see where it would open if the beak actually opens. So there's a lot of details for some of these small little dies. And then there is a eyeglass here. I was going to cut out some like plastic, some vellum or something like that to put on the inside of it, but it's such a small little piece that I didn't have a hole punch that was the same size. And cutting out the circle to be the exact same size and trying to glue it in the center, you'll see that I revert to something different here in just a little bit. But so I just glue it straight down. Basically what I do is put it on the eye, put it around the eye, and then I have the string come down so that it kind of touches the bird's chest there. If you wanted it twisted a little bit more so that it came more off the side, you could do that and leave the string off to the side, or you could cut the string if you wanted to put it in a different spot. If you needed the string to be longer, the squiggly pieces, you could just glue the squiggly piece to the bottom or cut some more of the squiggly lines and just keep going with it. So on this one I'm using the purple hat with the distressed band around it, so then I'm going to use the distressed bow tie here in a little bit around it as well. So on the second bird I'm going to use a gray spyglass or eyeglass with a little yellow ribbon or string attaching it, and I didn't line it up perfectly at the bottom, so I just cut the remainder of the gray off, but then I'm going to do it the same way. On this one I moved the eyeglass down just a little bit and the hat is up just a little bit, so the hat doesn't sit on the eyeglass at all. On the other one it sat on the eyeglass just a tad, and that was part of the reason that the hat didn't want to stick. So we'll stick that underneath there. Here's the distressed bow tie. Again, the detail on the bow tie, it's just for such a tiny little piece, there's a lot of detail on there. And then the other one, I'm just going to put a purple bow tie. And I don't think I distressed inked the bow ties, that bow tie at all. So now I'm going to clean up my work area a little bit. I do decide on the black skull with the white eyes to distress, like I said, distress the inside of it because it was just too stark white for me since I had distressed inked the other ones. I glue one of the birds to the very top of the skull. You could take that little finger or portion of the claw there and stick it behind the skull so that it kind of looked like it was maybe picking the skull up. You could put it on there a bunch of different ways. And then the second one I decided to kind of put to the side of the skull just a little bit. But you'll see there, mine look a little bit different. They used a black hat and a black beak. The only thing that was different was the bow tie. So here I'm using a crystal clear Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, and that's what I use for the eyeglass. So you can see the sparkle on it, so whenever it hits the light it kind of looks like there's glass in there. But I mean, you could also use the Nuvo drops to put in there, or you could do the glossy accents to put in there. That would be another one because you could actually make it raised a little bit. I did cut a piece of orange and a piece of black as my first layer, and then I cut another piece of orange and black to go behind the opposite ones. I used two different folders. One is the brick folder here, and then I kind of just rubbed up and down with the distress ink on the orange one. And then the other one is a Doris folder, and it actually is a Doris because it is marked Doris. And it's more of a just squares and rectangles. And I used a Archival Pigment Ink Pad Brilliance Moonlight White, and I rubbed it on the embossing folder and then embossed it onto the black, so that's why you can kind of see the white in the background on the debossed portions of the black one there. And one of them I decide to pop up since the bird is all black. I felt like he just kind of got lost on the black piece. So here's me putting down the orange on top of a piece of black, just to give it a little more texture. I like the multi-layers on my cards. You would not have to do this. You could put the orange or whatever color you decided right down onto the white. You don't have to layer it that much. I'm now using some foam squares. These are ones that I got, I believe at the Dollar Tree years ago, or they may have been, actually they're not Dollar Tree, they were Joann's years ago. They were Doris mounting squares, I think. They came with some, I'm turning to the side here because I still have some, but they had some on a roll, and then they had some flat sheets, and these just happened to be the flat sheets. So And I don't know, I'm sure you can get them other places too. I worked at Joann's part-time for a while, and so discount, just got them from Joann's. And I'm just going to stick him down there in the corner. And I didn't have him straight, and then I pulled up that little tiny piece, so getting it back on there was a little bit of a chore, but you can't really tell that I bent his head back a little bit. I used the bone folder there just to poke the foam pad back in there underneath there. And I am using I put it up there, but the first sentiment, I'm using the fast drying pigment ink from, it's a Dewdrop Brilliance, and it's Pearlescent Crimson. And then the second one that I use is the Cloud 9 Metallic Shimmer in the Pumpkin Spice Shimmer. And then I had some sentiment dies that I got off of Amazon that I used there. I've used them, I think, before, but they cut the sentiment out, and then they also cut a small frame around that, and that's what you see up there in the white. I do decide to use one of them before I put the actual sentiment down so that you can kind of see it around there. I kind of like that look. I did not do that on the other one, and I didn't do it on the what the crow is sitting on the black one. I used the same die cuts, and I didn't put that piece around the back. I could have, and it would have given it a little bit more dimension, a little bit more interest, but I decided not to there. And then I'm just using some more of those foam squares to pop it up. I don't usually go crazy with the foam squares, like I don't do multi-layers on top of multi-layers, but I do like to have some layers to my card and some dimension to it. So you can kind of see there, it kind of looks kind of cool. And then on the second one, I decided to do the black on the orange. Again, just, I like my layers. And this is not heavy weight cardstock, none of it is. It's all lightweight cardstock. You could get away with, if you are just starting out and you don't have a bunch of cardstock with some of these layers, you could get away with just paper. Just be careful when you put the glue down. If you have just regular 20-pound paper, the glue will sometimes show through. The Art Glitter Glue and the Barely Art, and even the Obsede doesn't show as much as Elmer's and some of the other glues do. Just be careful, don't put too much of it down. Stay away from the edge a little bit, and then as you put it down and you rub it down, the glue will disperse out to the edges and then it won't be seen as much. But the thinner paper does have a tendency to show the glue. I'm sometimes undecisive of where I want to put things. So, you know, I had started off in the corner, and then I decided last minute, nope, I'm going to stick it at the top corner there. And then I just glue this sentiment straight down, and I decide to glue the skull next to it. So these are the two cards that I made this time around, and I do plan on making some other things with this die cut, and hopefully I will be able to get some pictures posted. But I did use the Brilliance Moonlight White ink pad again to de-stress or to highlight that black skull just to make it pop a little bit. So, and there's the cards. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.